Welcome back to the Deep Dive. I want to start today by asking you a question, and I want you to be, really truly honest with yourself.
Okay, I'm ready.
When was the last time you felt peaceful?
Wow. That is, that's a loaded question to start things off.
It is, isn't it? But I don't mean vacation peaceful. I don't mean, lying on a beach with a drink in your hand.
Right, not the escapism kind of piece.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, when was the last time you were working on something, maybe writing a report for work, maybe cleaning out the garage, maybe practicing an instrument, and you didn't feel that low-level hum of anxiety in your chest?
That nagging feeling.
Yeah, that feeling of, I need to get this done so I can get to the next thing. That constant rushing.
The hurry up sickness, the feeling that the present moment is just, an obstacle to be overcome.
An obstacle. It's the
Right.
perfect word for it.
Yeah.
We are a culture of chasers. We chase the promotion, we chase the weight loss, we chase the weekend.
And the tragedy is we treat the time between the goals, which, when you think about it, is pretty much all of our actual lives.
It's 99% of life.
Right. We treat it as just this nuisance we have to survive. We basically live our lives like we're in a waiting room.
A waiting room for success. Yeah, I've heard it called the waiting room effect.
That's it. We convince ourselves that life will really begin once we leave the waiting room, once we get the degree, buy the house, or, lose the 20 pounds.
But the problem with that mindset, and this is the real kicker, is that it destroys your ability to actually perform well in the here and now.
It's not just making us miserable.
No, it's making us slower. It is actively sabotaging the very success we're chasing.
It's the ultimate paradox.
So today, we are flipping that script. We're doing a deep dive into a book that, frankly, feels like a philosophical intervention for this exact problem. It's called The Practicing Mind by Thomas M. Sterner.
It's a fantastic read, and I think it's important to frame this correctly for everyone listening. This isn't just another productivity hack.
No, this isn't 5 tips to squeeze more tasks into your hour.
Not at all. This is a fundamental shift in how you view time, how you view effort, and maybe, most importantly, how you view your own self-worth.
And we have a pretty serious mission today. We are going to unpack the 17 key learnings from this book. We're going to talk about why slowing down, believe it or not, actually makes you faster.
We are. And we're going to break down something called the DOC method, which, I have to say, has completely changed how I think about making mistakes.
I'm really excited for that part. And we're going to talk about mindfulness in a way that doesn't require a yoga mat or, a silent retreat in the mountains.
Absolutely. And we should definitely mention that the heavy lifting for today's curation, the insights and the breakdown of these 17 learnings, comes to us from the channel Goodreads Self-Growth.
Yes, a big shout out to them.
They've done an incredible job distilling these concepts, and we're basically using their material as our roadmap for this conversation. So a huge thank you to Goodreads Self-Growth for being the source of these transformative takeaways.
Yeah, definitely check them out if you want to accelerate your personal growth. Okay, so let's set the stage a little before we dive into the learnings themselves. Who is Thomas Sterner? Because, usually when we talk about productivity or elite mindset, we're quoting a Navy SEAL or a Silicon Valley CEO or some Olympic athlete.
Right, the usual suspects. Sterner was none of those things.
Not at all.
No, and that's precisely why his perspective is so refreshing and, frankly, so much more relatable. Sterner worked as a concert piano tuner.
A piano tuner. Now, I just want everyone to picture that job for a second.
Right.
The sheer patience required.
It is a job of infinite microscopic detail. A standard piano has 88 keys.
88, okay.
And each of those keys strikes multiple strings. You have to tighten these little steel pins by tiny, tiny fractions of a millimeter to get the frequency exactly right. It requires patience, a really refined ear, and a super steady hand.
And if you rush,
If you rush, you snap a string. If you're sloppy, the whole piano sounds awful. You can't hide it.
it sounds like an absolute nightmare for someone with a short attention span.
It sounds like a nightmare for pretty much anyone in the modern world. And that was exactly Sterner's problem. He describes this early in his career. He'd stand in front of a big, grand piano, look at all 88 keys, and just feel this wave of dread wash over him.
Oh, I can feel that. The overwhelming scope of the task.
He was doing the math in his head. Okay, one key takes me, 5 minutes? I have 87 left. I'm going to be here for 4 hours. I'm not making enough money per hour. I still have to pick up the dry cleaning later.
He was living entirely in the future. He was physically present with the tuning wrench, but his mind was 3 hours ahead.
Exactly. He was physically turning a wrench, but mentally he was at the bank, or at dinner, or literally anywhere but there.
And because of that split focus, He was just miserable.
Miserable. He felt like he was pushing a giant boulder uphill every single day. And, on top of that, he wasn't even doing his best work because his mind was completely scattered.
So the epiphany for him wasn't some lightning bolts from the heavens. It was really a survival mechanism.
It absolutely was. He realized, if I don't change how I view this work, I am going to burn out. I hate my life right now. So he made a conscious decision, a really profound one. He decided to stop trying to finish the piano.
Wait, hold on. He just stopped trying to finish. That sounds like quitting.
It does, but it's a mental trick.
Mm-hmm.
In his mind, he stopped focusing on the finished piano as the goal. He shifted his definition of success.
Or what?
Instead of tune the whole piano, his goal became tune this one single string perfectly. He decided to pour his entire existence, his whole consciousness, into the vibration of that single wire.
Just one string.
Just one. He listened to the beats, the little interference patterns in the sound waves. He felt the torque on the wrench. He made that one moment, that one action, his entire universe.
And what happened when he did that?
Two things. The first one was the anxiety just vanished. Because you can't be anxious about the future if you are 100% in the present. Anxiety requires a future tense, right?
Right. You have to be thinking about what's next.
But the second thing is the one that really matters for all of us who are obsessed with results. He got faster.
He got faster by slowing down.
Significantly faster.
That's the paradox I really want to dig into today. We think rushing makes us fast. We think stressing makes us productive. Stirner's whole philosophy argues that slowing down, or maybe a better way to put it, fully entering the process, is the only path to true speed.
There's an old military saying, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. It applies perfectly here.
I love that. Okay, so let's unpack this properly. We have these 17 learnings to get through, and we've clustered them into 5 big sections. Let's start with section 1, which is the big one. Core mindset shift. It's the battle of process versus outcome.
This is the foundation. If you don't get this part, none of the other techniques will really work.
Exactly. We're looking at learnings 1, 6, 11, and 17 here. And the first headline is what I'm calling the paradox of patience. Stirner says, and this feels so counterintuitive, that focusing on the outcome actually slows you down.
It does.
But how? I mean, if I want to get somewhere, shouldn't I keep my eyes on the destination? If I'm driving to New York, I need to know I'm going to New York, right?
You need to know we're going to New York, yes.
Oh.
That's the goal, the direction. But if you spend the entire 6-hour drive staring at the GPS, watching the mileage tick down, just repeating, are we there yet? Are we there yet? You're going to be miserable.
You're going to miss your exit because you're not watching the road.
You're going to miss your exit. Stirner uses the analogy of a piano student. Imagine a young student who desperately wants to play, I don't know, a complex piece by Chopin. That's the outcome. The perfect song.
Okay, I'm picturing it. I'm sitting at the keys. I want to sound like a virtuoso. I have that fantasy in my head.
Right. But you're not a virtuoso yet. You're a beginner.
Yeah.
So you start playing, and because your entire focus is on that perfect song, every single time you hit a wrong note, your brain registers it as a failure.
Oh, they've been there.
You think, I'm not there yet. This sounds awful. I'm failing.
And you get that tightness in your neck.
Yeah.
You start getting frustrated with yourself. Maybe you even, bang on the keys a little bit.
Exactly. This creates stress, anxiety, and a ton of judgment. Your muscles actually tense up. And when your muscles tense up, what happens? You play worse.
So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of failure.
Totally. You might even quit practicing altogether because it just feels so bad to fail over and over again. By focusing on the massive gap between where you are and where you want to be, you just create this incredible friction.
It's like you're fighting yourself instead of learning the instrument.
Precisely. Now let's flip it. What if your goal isn't the perfect song, but rather playing this one scale right here, right now, correctly?
A much smaller, more immediate goal.
Infinitely smaller. If you
Yeah.
focus only on the process of that one scale and you play it correctly, you are succeeding in real time. You are present. Your body relaxes. And you're actually learning faster because you aren't fighting your own frustration.
This connects directly to Learning 11, which is all about redefining success. I think this is where most of us really get tripped up in modern life. We define success as the big event, the graduation, the closing of the sale, hitting the goal weight.
And that is just a recipe for chronic unhappiness. Think about it. If success is losing 20 kilograms and today you've only lost 1 kilogram, are you a success or a failure?
By that definition, I am a failure. And I'm going to be a failure tomorrow and the next day and for months. until the day I finally hit that number.
Right. You spend months, maybe even years living in a state of failure, all for one brief moment of success. And then what happens? You go on vacation, you gain a kilo back, and suddenly you're a failure again. It's a terrible system.
So what's the alternative?
Sterner argues we need to move the goalpost much, much closer. Success isn't the final result. Success is the discipline of staying on the path today.
So if my goal is to eat healthy, and I ate a healthy breakfast this morning.
You are successful. Right now. You did the thing. If you intended to practice guitar for 20 minutes and you did it, you were successful.
And you get that little dopamine hit immediately.
You do. You feel good about yourself, which creates a positive feedback loop. It motivates you to do it again tomorrow. It changes the whole emotional texture of your life from this constant grinding struggle to a series of small, manageable wins.
That is profound. It shifts the power completely back to the present moment. But there's a tricky part here, which is learning 6, separating self from result.
Yes, the ego.
This is the hardest one for high achievers, I think.
Yeah.
We tie our identity so closely to our output. If I write a bad script, I am a bad writer. If this project fails, I am a failure.
It's the ego trap. We attach our fundamental self-worth to the product of our labor. Sterner calls for detachment. You have to realize that the result, good or bad, is just data. It's feedback. It doesn't define you.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate for a second. If I detach, won't I stop caring? If I don't care if the result is good or bad, won't I just produce garbage? Oh, well, I wrote a terrible report, but I'm detached, so it doesn't matter.
That's the common fear, and it's a valid one. But let's look at what Goodreads self-growth really highlights from the book on this. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care about quality. It means you aren't controlled by the outcome.
What's the difference?
Think about a surgeon. You absolutely want your surgeon to care deeply about the outcome of the operation, right?
Definitely. I want them to care a lot.
But do you want your surgeon panicking midway through because they're thinking, oh my God, if I mess this up, I'm a bad person, my career is over, my family will be ashamed?
No. No, of course not. I want them cool as a cucumber, focused.
Exactly. You want them detached from the personal drama so they can focus entirely on the process of the incision. Paradoxically, by not tying your self-worth to the result, you perform better because all that pressure is gone. You're free to just operate. You become a scientist of your own work instead of a judge.
A scientist, not a judge. I like that. It's caring about the craft, not the clout or the consequences for your ego.
Precisely. And this leads us really nicely to the final point of this section, Learning 17, Enjoying the Journey. This sounds like, a cliche bumper sticker. It's not the destination, it's the journey.
It does, but Sterner means it in a very literal, almost mathematical way.
He does, and it's a simple argument. How much of your time do you actually spend at the finish line?
A minute. A day. The graduation ceremony is 2 hours long. The moment you see the number on the scale is 5 seconds.
Exactly. And how much time do you spend getting there?
4 years of college, 6 months of dieting.
So if you only allow yourself to feel joy at the finish line, you are mathematically guaranteeing that you will be unhappy and unfulfilled for 99.9% of your experience.
You're just wishing away your existence.
You are. Sterner argues that the process, the commute, the work, the cooking, the practice, that is where life actually happens. If you hate all of that and only live for the vacation and the retirement, you are actively choosing to miss your own life.
Wow, that hits hard. We're wishing away our lives, waiting for the highlights reel to start. And again, this is why I love the curation from Goodreads Self-Growth, because they really emphasize that this isn't a quick fix. You can't just snap your fingers and suddenly love your commute.
No, it's a practice.
It is the practice of the practicing mind.
Well said.
Okay, so we've got the philosophy down, process over outcome. It makes sense intellectually, but how do we actually do this? How do we retrain a brain that's been screaming, are we there yet?
Right.
For 30 years.
Right. The practical application.
This brings us to section 2. The mechanics of mastery, and specifically the thing you mentioned earlier, the DOC method.
DOC.
DOC.
Observe correct.
Yeah.
It sounds so simple, but I have a feeling it's not quite that easy.
It's deceptively simple. The concept itself is straightforward, and it covers learnings 3, 7, and 13. Let's break it down step by step.
Okay.
Step 1 is do. You perform the action. You take the shot in basketball. You write the sentence. You play the chord. But the key here is you perform it without emotional attachment. You just do it. Got it. Step 1. Take the action.
Right. Then comes step 2. Observe. This is the most critical step, and this is where almost all adults fail. You have to observe the result of what you just did. But And this is a huge, huge but. You must observe it without emotion.
Without emotion. How is that even possible? If I miss the basketball shot, I feel annoyed. If I play the wrong note, I physically cringe.
It's a discipline, and Stoner uses the analogy of a scientist in a lab. If a scientist mixes two chemicals and they turn blue instead of the expected green, does the scientist cry? Does she throw the beaker against the wall and say, I am a terrible person, I'll never be a chemist?
No, of course not.
Yeah.
They just make a note in their lab book. Turn blue.
Exactly. It's just data. The ball hit the back of the rim, the sentence feels a bit clunky, the G chord buzzed on the high E string. That is observation. It is neutral. It is judgment-free.
Okay, so do, then observe like a scientist. And then step 3 is correct.
You make a small adjustment based on the data, and then you repeat the loop. You do it again. Do, observe, correct. Do, observe, correct. It's a simple, clean loop.
But the problem is, as adults, we don't do that. We replace observe with judge.
That's it. It becomes do, judge, quit.
Or do judge, scream at yourself, do again angrily, which makes the result even worse.
And Sterner points out that we all used to be experts at this. We just forgot. We need to look at toddlers. Think about a baby learning to walk. The baby pulls herself up, she wobbles for a second, and then falls right on her butt.
Right, 1,000 times a day.
Does the baby think, oh, I look so stupid, everyone is watching me, I'm clearly not cut out for this whole walking thing, I should just stick to crawling forever?
No, they usually laugh and just try again.
They are in pure DOC mode. Do stand. Observe. I fell to the left that time. Correct. Maybe I'll lean a little to the right this time. They have zero ego attached to the failure. But somewhere along the line, in school or sports, we learn to be embarrassed by not knowing things. We lose what Zen Buddhism calls the beginner's mind.
The beginner's mind. That's learning 7. And that's the liberty of having zero expectations, isn't it?
Yes. It's so freeing. When you can genuinely admit to yourself, I am a beginner at this, you kill the ego that fears looking stupid. If you go in expecting to be bad, you can't be disappointed. You can only be pleasantly surprised.
It's like giving yourself permission to suck. I love that.
Ah.
I am 100% allowed to be bad at this because I am new.
And that mindset is what allows you to use the DOC method effectively, because you aren't judging yourself for not being an expert on day one.
Which leads right into learning 3. Progress over perfection. If you're a beginner, your goal isn't to be perfect. Your goal is just to make a little bit of progress.
Just run the DOC loop one more time than you did yesterday. That's it. That's the win.
And Sturgeon talks about how this needs to be a systematic approach, right? That's learning 13.
Yes. You can't just DOC randomly on whatever you feel like. You need a system. This touches on the 1% rule that the Goodreads Self-Growth channel really highlights well. You break these huge, intimidating goals into tiny micro-steps.
You don't try to fix your entire tennis swing at once.
No, that's impossible. You DOC your grip for a week. Then once that's better, you DOC your stance. Then your footwork. Improving by just 1% a day seems completely invisible in the moment.
You don't feel it.
You don't feel it at all. But mathematically, because of the power of compounding, a 1% improvement every day makes you over 37 times better by the end of the year.
37 times better. That is mind-blowing. It's the power of consistent, focused, non-judgmental practice.
That's the engine.
Okay, so the DOC method is the engine. Do, observe without judgment, and call it good. But to do that effectively, you need a very specific state of mind. You can't be distracted. You can't be worrying about your taxes while you're trying to observe your tennis grip.
Your mind has to be on the court.
Exactly. This leads us to section 3, the internal game. This is all about mindfulness and thought discipline.
This is where we go from the mechanics of the body to the mechanics of the brain. We're looking at learnings 2, 8, 14, and 15.
So, mindfulness. Learning, too. I feel like this word is so overused these days. Everyone says be mindful. But what does Sterner actually mean by it in the context of practice?
He doesn't mean sitting on a cushion and chanting Om. In this context, mindfulness simply means deliberate practice. It means being fully 100% present in the activity you are doing. Remember the piano tuner story?
Yeah, the misery of the 88 keys.
Sterner hated his job when he was rushing because he wasn't really there. He was physically tuning a piano, but his mind was somewhere else, calculating how much money he was losing by being slow or thinking about what he needed to do later. He was split.
His attention was divided. He wasn't present.
He wasn't present at all. Then he made that conscious decision. He decided to treat each individual key as its own self-contained universe. He stopped looking at the rest of the keyboard. He focused his entire attention on the sound of that single string, the feel of the wrench in his hand, the vibration traveling up his arm. He made that one key his entire world for those few seconds.
And what happened?
Well, two things. First, as we said, he started enjoying it. It became meditative. He started to find the beauty in the physics of the sound. But second, and this is the kicker for productivity, he finished the whole piano faster.
He finished faster by not trying to rush.
Exactly. Because when you're fully focused, you don't make as many sloppy mistakes. You don't have to go back and fix things. You aren't wasting mental and emotional energy on anxiety. Your movements become more efficient, more precise. Mindfulness enhances practice because it eliminates all the mental noise that actually slows us down.
Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. There it is again.
There it is again.
That reminds me of Learning 14, recognizing the value of each moment. Sterner says we miss our own lives because we are physically in the present, but mentally in the future or the past.
We're like terrible time travelers. We're always worrying about a tomorrow that hasn't happened or regretting a yesterday that's already gone. Sterner's practical tip for this is incredibly simple. Single tasking.
Just do one thing at a time.
Just one. If you are washing the dishes, just wash the dishes. Feel the warm water on your hands. Smell the soap. Hear the sound of the plates. Don't plan your work week. If you are driving your car, just drive your car.
That's surprisingly hard to do. My brain wants to be busy. It feels, I don't know, unproductive to just wash dishes. I feel like I should be listening to a podcast like this one, for example, or planning my dinner.
Of course. That's because your mind is like a wild horse.
Yeah.
This is learning 8. Discipline your thoughts. Sterner uses this great analogy that the untrained mind is like a wild horse that constantly wants to run off into fields of anxiety, fear, and distraction.
So how do we tame the horse? Do we whip it into submission?
No, absolutely not. If you try to whip a wild horse, it just panics and bolts. You have to gently rein it in. Discipline isn't about forcing your mind to be silent. It's about noticing when it has run away and gently, without judgment, bringing it back to the now.
So it's a constant, gentle correction.
It is, and it requires you to take on the role of the observer. You have to have the realization that you are not your thoughts. You are the entity that is listening to your thoughts.
Whoa, there's a bit of a Matrix moment right there. I am not my thoughts. I am the listener.
Exactly. And creating that little bit of distance gives you all the power. It allows for control. When you hear that voice in your head saying, "This is boring, let's check Instagram," the observer part of you can say, "I hear you, but right now we are washing the dishes."
And we can use that focused mind for more than just washing dishes. We can use it for visualization, which is Learning 15. Now, usually when people talk about visualization, they mean visualize yourself holding the trophy or visualize the big check clearing.
Right, which is outcome visualization. It feels good for a moment, but it doesn't actually help you build the skill. Sterner advocates for process visualization.
What?
Don't visualize the trophy. Visualize the perfect practice rep. If you're a basketball player, visualize the perfect form on your jump shot. Feel the ball leave your fingertips. See the perfect arc. If you're a musician, visualize yourself playing the difficult passage perfectly.
Why does that actually help, though? Is it just positive thinking?
No, it's neuroscience. The brain actually fires many of the same neural pathways during vivid, detailed visualization as it does during the physical action itself. It's like getting a free practice session mentally.
So you're building the muscle memory in your brain.
You are, and you can take it a step further with what's called emotional rehearsal. You can visualize yourself staying calm when things go wrong. A musician can visualize hitting a wrong note in a concert and then recovering gracefully without panicking. You're actually training your brain to be calm when the real mistake happens.
So you're pre-programming your reaction to failure. That's brilliant. But let's be honest, even with all these tools, even with DOC and visualization, emotions come up. We get impatient. We get frustrated. We want to scream.
It's inevitable.
And that brings us to section 4, the emotional barrier.
The big ones: patience, impatience, and control. This covers learnings 4, 9, 12, and 16.
Let's start with patience, Learning 4,
Yeah.
and its evil twin, letting go of impatience, Learning 9. I feel like patience is often described as just suffering quietly. You know, just wait. It'll happen eventually.
That's passive patience, which is really just resignation. Sterner redefines it completely. He calls it active acceptance of the natural pace of things. He uses the flower analogy. You plant a seed in a pot, you water it, you give it sun, you give it the right conditions. Do you then stand over the pot and yell at it, "Grow faster"?
I mean, sometimes I want to. especially with my avocado plant.
But you know it won't work. In fact, if you get impatient and try to pull the little sprout up to make it taller, you'll just kill it. Impatience is yelling at the seed. It's a denial of the reality of how growth actually works. You have to respect the process.
And the archery analogy from the book fits here too, right?
Yes, perfectly. If you are an archer and you are so eager to see the arrow hit the bullseye, the outcome, that you rush the draw and release the string before you are steady, what happens?
You'll miss, probably by a lot.
You will miss. You have to respect the tension. You have to stay in the draw phase for as long as is necessary to stay stable. Rushing guarantees a bad result.
So impatience actually guarantees failure, or at least a lower quality outcome.
It pretty much guarantees it.
But what do we do when that frustration bubbles up? Because it does. I can be as zen as I want, but eventually I'll get frustrated. That's learning 16, building emotional control.
The trigger is almost always frustration, and Stirner says that frustration is a signal. It's like a red warning light on your car's dashboard.
What is it signaling?
It's signaling that your mind has left the present moment and jumped into an imagined future, a future where you think you should be better or milder along than you currently are.
I should have mastered this by now. Why am I still making this mistake?
Exactly. That single thought, I should be somewhere else, is the source of all frustration. The solution is to use the feeling of frustration as a bell. A mindfulness bell. When you feel that heat rising in your chest, let it ring a bell in your head that says, come back to the present.
So you use the negative emotion as a trigger for a positive action.
Precisely. You use it to trigger the DOC method. You say to yourself, okay, I'm frustrated. Why? Because I'm judging myself. Let's stop judging. Let's just observe what actually happened. Okay, now let's correct.
So frustration isn't a sign to quit. It's a sign to refocus. It's just a reminder.
It's a mechanism, and every time you do that, every time you successfully manage that emotional flare-up, you are building learning 12, mental resilience.
Resilience is muscle.
It is a muscle. Every time you pull your mind back from a distraction, every time you cool down your own frustration and return to the task at hand, you are doing one mental rep.
That's such a great way to look at it. You're not failing to focus. You're successfully getting a rep in refocusing. And Goodreads Self-Growth really emphasizes this point in their summary, that resilience isn't something you're born with. You don't just have grit.
No, you build it. You build it through this exact kind of friction. The friction is the gym. If life was always easy and you were never frustrated, you'd have no mental muscles to speak of.
Okay, we are coming into the home stretch here, section 5. We've got the core mindset, we've got the practical method, we have the mindfulness tools, and we know how to handle the emotions. Now we need the overall strategy. How do we balance all this in the long run? This covers the last two, learnings 5 and 10.
Right. This is about sustainability. How do you keep this going? Learning 5 is consistency over intensity.
The classic New Year's resolution effect.
Exactly. We love intensity. We love the movie montage where the hero works out for 10 hours straight and is transformed overnight. But in real life, intensity almost always leads to injury or burnout.
Or both.
Stirner uses a simple running analogy. If you haven't run in 5 years and you go out tomorrow and try to run 20 kilometers, what happens?
I can't walk for a week. I probably get shin splints, and I decide I hate running and never do it again.
Exactly. Running 20 kilometers once prepares you for nothing but injury and quitting, but running just 3 kilometers every single day for a month, that builds a runner. That actually changes your physiology and your identity.
And Stirner also suggests keeping practice sessions short, doesn't he?
Yes. And this is such a great little psychological hack. He says you should have quit while you were still enjoying it.
Wait, really? That feels wrong. If I'm on a roll, in the zone, shouldn't I keep going and maximize it?
Not necessarily. Think about the association you're building. If you push yourself until you are exhausted, frustrated, and sick of the activity, your brain remembers that last feeling. It creates an association. Piano practice equals exhaustion and frustration.
So you're less likely to want to do it tomorrow.
Of course. But if you stop while you still feel good, while you're still enjoying it, your brain says, hey, that was fun, let's do that again tomorrow. You build a positive association with the practice itself.
That is so smart.
Yeah.
It's like leaving them wanting more, but the them is your own brain.
Exactly. And that brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, learning 10. Balancing goals and present action. We've kind of bashed outcome thinking a lot today, but Stirner is not saying don't have goals.
Right, because otherwise we'd just be wandering aimlessly with no direction.
Of course. He uses the rudder analogy. A goal is like the rudder on a boat. You need to set it to determine your direction. I want to sail to that island over there. But once the rudder is set, you have to let go of the rudder and focus on rowing.
Because if you just stand at the back of the boat staring at the rudder, you don't actually move.
You go nowhere. And if you're constantly running to the back of the boat to fiddle with the rudder, you aren't spending time rowing. The goal gives you the vector, the direction, but the work in life itself happens in the present moment of rowing. Goals are guidelines, not rigid laws. They give you a direction, but life happens in the stroke of the oar.
I love that image. Set the rudder, then row.
Mhm.
Don't obsess over the island, obsess over the quality of your rowing.
That is the entire essence of the practicing mind.
So let's bring this all home. After all these 17 learnings, what does this really mean for us, for the listener, on a day-to-day basis?
I think it means we have a choice. A really fundamental choice we make every single day. We can continue to live our lives in a state of getting it over with, constantly rushing through our days to get to some imaginary finish line where we think happiness lives.
A waiting room.
Or we can choose the practice lifestyle. We can choose to actually experience things as they're happening. We can choose to find satisfaction and even joy in the doing, not just in the having it done.
It's about moving from a life of just checking boxes to a life of actually experiencing moments.
Beautifully put. Yes.
Okay, before we go, I want to leave our listeners with a challenge, a final provocative thought to take with you. I want you to identify just one area of your life, maybe a small one, where you feel miserable because you're always rushing.
Could be anything.
Anything. Maybe it's your commute in traffic. Maybe it's cooking dinner after a long day. Maybe it's the chaos of getting your kids ready for school in the morning.
Or even something as simple as brushing your teeth.
Yes, whatever it is, for just that one activity tomorrow, I challenge you to apply the DOC method. Don't try to do it better or faster. Just do it. And while you're doing it, observe. What does the steering wheel actually feel like in your hands? What does the onion smell like when you're chopping it? What does the toothpaste taste like? And just correct any tension you find in your body. Try to do it consciously.
Turn the mundane into the meditative.
Exactly. Just see if it changes how you feel, even for just 2 minutes. And please remember, all these incredible insights, these 17 learnings we've discussed, they were curated and inspired by the fantastic content from the channel Good Read Self-Growth.
They do excellent work.
So if you want more of this kind of deep dive into self-development literature, you absolutely have to check them out.
They are a fantastic resource for the lifelong learner in all of us.
Thank you so much for listening to the deep dive. We really hope this helps you slow down so you can actually get where you're going a little faster and a lot happier.
Keep practicing.
See you next time.